Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is an insanely and very even disgustingly early morning over here from a very dark Helsinki, Finland. As always, I would like to wish you the best, and the happiest. More important today because I did not get enough sleep last night, so got to pass it on some ways. And we got plenty to talk about actually, as Bitcoin does once again fill out the short-term time frame range between 11.3 and 11.5. That actually has started to extrapolate some sort of interesting ideas on the short-term time frames, which we will be covering today. Of course, also going to be focusing on traditional markets as well, and then Forex for a time later. And with that said, I'd like to put the focus on the Krown Chain application, which can be found at app.krownchain.net. And what do we see? We see the open interest read still kind of hanging around that 2.1 billion mark, coming down a little bit from yesterday to today. Bitcoin dominance more or less the same as well. Long term, still looking for a major massive reversal there, but I don't really feel the need to cover it every day because, well, I mean, it's not even really changing all that much on a weekly basis, but still basically the same things. Anyways, fear and greed index also popping up 3 points from 53 to 56. Bitcoin mostly sideways, so it doesn't really give us all that much. And heading on over here to the data tab, just see if there's any sort of canaries in the coal mine, something to be aware of. What do we see? Not really anything of interest. Futures premium over spot, not anything to be super concerned with. Fear and greed index, not really anything as well. And I should also say, for the people who have been pointing out that the FEMEX funding rate has been wrong, I appreciate that. We are going to very likely just take it out, figure out what's going wrong with the API, and then once that all is Gucci, then we will put it back in. Anyways, what else do I have to say? Going back to the dashboard over here. Oh yes, that's right. Jack's mentoring program is actually about to go live in the next 2 weeks, so he is opening up signups once again. Definitely check out the video over here on exactly what it's on. But I should add a few things that are actually, I guess maybe not covered there, but they probably are. I don't know if they're actually covered there. They should be covered there. But this is what he'd want you to know. You do get access to a specific Discord channel that is only for his mentoring people. It's actually within our current server, and you'll just get access to it. So you'll be able to see all of that and congregate with all the other students, plus Jack himself. You also get free access to the video program, of which he has hosted on here as well. And of course, if you're already in that, then you do get a discount equal to the same price. And also for the way that it's kind of operating, there's weekly sort of workshops in the way that it's set up for all students, both former, so all throughout the past year, and in current as well. And then there also is post-coaching, DMs and Skype meetings if needed as well. So thought that I'd throw that out there because Jack's the guy for that. Because I don't, people have asked me if I'm going to do something like that. No, I don't really have any plans to do anything like that pretty much ever. Because Jack just has the results. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So with that said, let's go into the actual price action charts right here. And I guess I already spoiled the surprise. Bitcoin in a range, craziness, right? 11.3 to 11.5, and Bitcoin did get a try up to about 11.550ish yesterday. Taking out the prior wick high from the day prior, but not really giving us anything too much on top of that. However, with the advent of this price action, there actually are two very interesting trade ideas here, which are just simple as fucking simple gets. And actually would make me interested in potentially definitely a short-term trade, but potentially even a long-term trade as well. Anyways, to the upside, if we do take out yesterday's wick high, which is 11.550 on GDAX, this is, let's see what Mexico says. Yeah, 11.555 actually. And what does Stamp say? It says 11.555 actually as well. So we'll just go back, and yes, they all pretty much agree with that area within about $1, and anywhere above there actually today. Not even looking for a closure, but anywhere above there. And yes, I would be looking for this one to have a nice little move to the upside back into the 11.8 region right here into this liquid zone, with potential to continue all the way up towards our more long-term area at about 12.50 to 12.100. We'll just say 12.100 for now because it's a little bit easier to say. But by the same token, Bitcoin still does have a threat of a downside, and actually we're probably going to spend more time on, well, maybe not more time, but we're going to spend some time on traditional markets, which actually do suggest that this does come to the downside, as pretty much everything in this market, pretty much everything in this fucking world trades together. And with that in mind, that would imply that, if traditional markets are coming down, well, Bitcoin probably comes down with it. Anyways, I still would be using this area right here, right around 11.3, just stock standard, nothing too crazy. No, I would not be using wicks, but I would be using closures here. 2 hours probably fine. Let's see what the 2 hour actually looks like. Yeah, 2 hour probably gets it. 4 hour would be a lot more confidence inducing, if you want to call it that. But yes, if it does break right there, I would be looking for a move all the way back down towards the $11,000 base, anywhere between 11,000 and 11.1, and I would be looking for a bounce there as well. So we're talking about a short-term move of about $340, and if it does come back down around here, I actually would be looking at this as a potential long-term opportunity. Not because it's guaranteed to work out. I do believe that that there'd be a very strong likelihood of a bounce within this region. Again, anywhere around 11, it's actually 1150 to 11100 if you want to be super exact. And then could that turn into a long-term position? Would have potential, yes. But for right now, want to take the market one step at a time, obviously. And while we're on here on the low-term time frames, see what we have on the momentum oscillators, and 4-hour Stokes still coming nice and healthily down. Maybe not so healthily depending upon your disposition, but you can see that we're kind of meeting up with that same trend line that we had plotted in from yesterday, right around this region right here. So it's actually going to be confirmed probably on this next tick or two, whether it wants to catch on to it or not. If it catches on to it, then likely does give another try to the upside, and in any sort of a 2-hour closure above 11, or should we be using a 2-hour? I think that we actually got a 2-hour closure above there yesterday. Yeah, we did, but that did not get it. So 4-hour obviously going to have a little bit more sincerity with it, and I'd probably be using that, even though I actually do think that if you use a 2-hour once again for that same area, probably would be right. But either that or a wick higher than what we see from yesterday's high. Both of those would be good enough for me to look for a move another $340 to the upside, somewhere around 11.8, with very likely continuation implied towards 12,000, or sorry, that was 12,100 over a little bit more time. Like I said, to the downside right here, 11.3 is the area, but as it stands right now, what I expect to see on the very low term time frames, going from 4-hour to 3-hour, is I'd expect to see that already kind of in motion. And actually we do see that right now. We do see 3-hour Stokes already popping back up, fulfilling this trend line right here. Sorry, this one was relevant to the 4-hour, this one relevant to the 3-hour, getting the last few major lows. This was actually 4th of September, by the way. That was when Bitcoin was all the way back down around here. So not getting you the ultimate low, but getting a pretty nice drive right there on that nice bounce, and then getting the, and then getting the major low later. And then more recently, what do we have right here? What's this one correlated with on 2nd of October? That was coming out of this base right here, actually, on this low, be precipitating this next move over the next couple of days to the upside from about 10.5 to where we are right now, essentially. So about $1,000 move. And then if we go to, and then obviously, right now we're already meeting that trend line, and you can see it's turning up at the same time. So I look at that as very interesting, because actually, if I'm just looking at Bitcoin right here, while I do think that short term it very likely does come back down and like swipe around 11.3 or something, if I'm just looking at Bitcoin, I actually do think that Bitcoin looks okay, so to speak. With that in mind, though, we're going to look at a few other things that make me really second guess that, and why I'd actually much rather just trade on the periphery of this range rather than trade. Well, definitely not trade with quite literally right inside the fucking middle of the range. That's one of my major rules. I never take a trade within right here, unless if volatility is incredibly low, and then maybe I'll do some like options or something. But looking at the 2-hour, what do we see as well? We do see not much, actually. We do see 2-hour Stokes actually pop back up, so they are leading the 3-hour, and the 3-hour potentially is leading the 4-hour. Same sort of trend line going from the same areas as well. Do like that. And 2-hour RSI, looking at the, do we have anything of note here? Not really, no. No, not really. What do we see on an hourly? We do see on an hourly that a little bit of hidden bearish divergence, but I think that that's mostly played out on an hourly for a move about 11,450 to 11,350-ish region. I'd say that's relevant to say that it's played out. We do see hourly Stokes also popping back up as well. So you know what? The lower term timeframes do say that we do have a little bit of a pivot here. I do think that Bitcoin probably does test again 11.3, but again, as long as it doesn't break, I'd look for the range to hold. And technically speaking, as long as the range holds, I should be overall bullish on this, just based off of trend. With that in mind, I would be very, 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 very quick to change my mind on that and change my positioning, although right now I don't have any positioning at all, to a little bit of short-term downside, again, if 11.3 is broken. Now, let's go over to, well, should we go over there right now? No, let's go through the medium and higher term timeframes before we do that. And actually, do we see anything on volatility that is of interest as well? Yeah, we do. We see historical volatility percentile on the 4-hour being extremely low right now, getting multiple single-digit reads. Similar to what we saw not so long ago on the 11th of October before this nice little move right here out of this base from about 11.2 all the way to 11.8. And once again, we're kind of within that same region. Now, this is not like a greater contraction phase. It's not like what we saw, back on over here throughout this whole base, but it is, relevant to the short term right now. So we could look at that as very likely to produce a decent move today. And I'd expect to see the same things on, basically the 2-hour and the hourly, of which we'll check out right now. Buy hourly actually is really, really hot right there. So that's bizarre. I would not expect to see that. And hourly is kind of coming down as well. So you know what does that mean? Well, let's go to the 3 hour and see if there's anything of note. Yeah, the 3 hour and the 4 hour are both contracting. The 2 hour and the hourly are both kind of, well, they're going to go into a contraction phase as well, but they just got expanding. So I guess what that actually correlated with was the move yesterday. Okay, yes, actually that does make sense, from about 11,550 to 11,3. Okay, yes, there we go. That fills out the short-term range, but the 4 hour historical volatility percentile read should actually get the break of the range. So again, very, 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 very low time frames like this, like on the hourly, that just fills out the range. As you can see right here, spikes up, gets red, and what do you know? We test both 11.3 and 11.5 all in the same fucking hourly dildo. But on the 4 hour, this pretty much just kind of flatlines for the last like day and a half, 2 days here. So that very likely speaks towards the resolution of this range. So what is it actually suggesting? We probably actually do resolve this range before the weekend, before Friday's closure. Yesterday I was saying very likely we just play out another day of sideways here. I do think that now is the time to be aware once again, mostly because I do think that this actually has a threat of breaking in the more immediate futures today or tomorrow. I think very, 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 very likely. I want to see hourly come back down again and then match up with the 4 hour, and then that would likely be a good signal that it's time to be paying attention for an actual break. Check out the momentum oscillators at that point as well for a little bit of bias on direction, but of course levels at the end of the day is what I'd be using to constitute an actual break. Let's go over to the 12 hour and look at the medium term timeframes here. 12 hour still closing above all major moving averages, not anything really too interesting. 12 hour stokes are coming down, and they are coming down below the critical zone, which is typically not good. 12 hour RSI also getting kicked out of the bullish control zone, so also giving a little bit of downside bias. And what do you know? If we do break to the downside, where's your next level here? 1150 to 11,100-ish region. So yes, it would imply. And looking at the 12 hour right here too, we already spoke about yesterday's wick high at 11,550 to be a good continuation point to the upside for another move towards 11.8, and very likely extension towards 12,000 after that, maybe over the next like week or so, or a few days, whatever it ends up being. Could we use the wick low of yesterday? I would feel a little bit less confident doing that. I think that more aggressive traders could definitely do it. Assuming that your risk management is in play. But would I do it myself? No, I'd probably wait for a closure here. Although I'm going to show you a few other things that are going to probably push you in that direction. So I should really pull back my own opinion here and just kind of present the TA as the TA is. But looking at 12-hour RSI, long term, very constructive, very, 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 very good. I really, really like this. I want to be very clear in stating this. Short term though, breaking below this area right here probably does actually air the statistics on the downside. Looking at 12-hour Joule, do we see anything here? No, not really. 12-hour, we already looked at that. Yes, so let's go check out the daily and see if there's anything of note here as well. Daily Stokes are going to be getting a fresh cross down for the first time in a while, coming above the critical zone at the same time. We have found a lot of highs within that region, and also this is sort of fulfilling this trend line right here, going all the way back from our highs in May of this year, by the way. May was this high right here at about 10,000. The next high connected right around, let me just double check. Yep, okay, this one right here in early August. Yeah, so that was quite literally this high right here. And then once again, we actually have hit that trend line just around 11,500 on a daily closing basis. Now, with all of that in mind, I do still want to say I'd still be looking for an actual break on the lower term timeframes. I do think that is going to be the more tradable what's the word I'm looking for? Action, I suppose. But daily would a little bit be more angled towards the downside. And of course, where's going to be your natural target for this? Anywhere between the 21 and the 10 simple, which guess what? 1150 to 11,100-ish region. So Bitcoin does come back down around there. I would be looking for a bounce at the very least for a nice little scalpy scalp on the short-term timeframes. And then after that, we'll come back tomorrow and analyze it if that actually does happen. Daily RSI, kind of the same thing as the 12-hour. We spoke about this a few days ago. Your first test in the bullish control zone after a while of being away from it likely does get pushed back. That's what we're seeing. And well, Bitcoin still hasn't broken the range even on the short-term time frame. So that is why I'm very hesitant to get even short-term bearish right here. I'd rather speak in more ephemeral tones where I want to see exactly what it's doing on the short-term time frames. I want to see proof, not promises right now, because well, this actually would have bigger implications for the long term. Looking at historical volatility percentile on the daily as well, you can see that we've been contracting steadily ever since September. And with that said, coming out of these multiple single-digit reads, it is starting to actually expand from that region as well. So with that in mind, that would also suggest that this base right here, whether you're bullish or bearish, is going to precipitate, is going to lead into major swaths of price action. And I'd even go as far as saying that if Bitcoin breaks back down below 11,000, even on, let's see how low we could go. How low can you go? Yeah, 4 hour would probably do it. Anywhere below 11,000 on a 4-hour daily closure, even 11.1 probably does it as well. And yes, I'd be looking for a full retrace actually all the way back down to the low 10,000s, likely back down towards 10.2 to about 10.1 region. So that is, quite a fucking move right there. And to the upside, I mean, obviously, 11.8, 12,000 are going to be relevant, but long term, I mean, the long term trend is to the upside. So that is why I'm a little bit hesitant here as well to make any sort of more intense calls, mostly because I don't think it's warranted, and also because, I mean, the long term is still fine. And once again, I feel like I go over this every fucking day, but I do think that it is important just for simplicity's sake. And anytime that Bitcoin's been above the yellow 20-month exponential average on the weekly time frame and it has a positive slope, those are your bull markets. Keeps you along all the way from $5 to fucking $1,000 right here. Tells you about the the bull trap right here in 2014, 2015, all the way down from about 600 to 100. And in 2015, we switched back around again from 250 all the way up to 20,000. 2018 tells you about the bear market once again. Same thing in 2019 on this run from 4 to 14, and then more recently on this run beginning in April, breaking above there and maintaining the positive slope the whole way through. That is also coming along the side of momentum oscillators looking like they want to cross back onto the upside. This is your weekly Stokes right here, rejecting the neutral zone and trying to cross back up. Weekly RSI is very constructive. I really like this read. So, again, the next time that this thing gets back into the bullish control zone, I'd be looking for it to stay in there, because this one got pushed back rather aggressively. And that means that if we get back in there, it's kind of like, everyone's in the same agreement. And if that happens, then we're probably going to spend a lot of time within the bullish control zone, filling this area out. And again, a very constructive behavior here nonetheless, going all the way back to April, May of 2019 to where we are right now. So all of those things come together, and realistically, while the short term is having a little bit of a threat of a downside there, I would still be hesitant to actually look at it as likely until that critical area is broken. So that's just my general disposition. Obviously, more aggressive people out there will look at all that and they'll be like, fuck it, it's going down, baby. Let's go to 11,000. And there's there's plenty of good reason to actually be looking for that actually. But before we get into those other reasons, let's actually go over the 2-day and 3-day as well and see if there's anything of note here. Let's put back on all of these little babies. Come on, there you go. Do we see anything on the 2-day? 2-day RSI getting rejected from the bullish control zone, probably does come back down to the exponential and bounces off there. 2-day Stokes, losing a little bit of their momentum, but not anything too crazy. What about the 3-day? 3-day is a lot more obvious as well. Just using wick to wick, anywhere below the last 3-day wick low, I'd be looking for continuation back down wherever the 21 is, or the 10 simple is at that time, which is around 11,000. To the upside, that would be, that's not really all that helpful because it's around 11,731. But if that were to happen, I would be looking for extension towards that 12,100-ish region. So basically, if we do take out the last 3-day high, yes, I would be looking for that move into the lower 12,000s and below the last 3-day low. But that's not all that helpful for the low here, because it is 11,175. So it's like how much delta is there going to be on that trade? Well, potentially actually a lot if it actually does break 11,000. But just for that quick short-term trade, about $200, which, well, to be fair, actually is tradable. But I do think that any sort of a closure below 11.3 probably does get it anyways. Okay, all right. So let's actually talk about why I do think. I'll just show it this way. Let's go look at traditional markets. All right, so NASDAQ right here. NASDAQ coming down a little bit, having a little bit of a, actually, if we go to regular NASDAQ, do we have an island top? A little bit of an island. Is this technically an island top or not? It's not, but this is a fucking reversal right there, no doubt. So looking at NASDAQ futures, do we have a little more downside? Yes, very likely back down to about 11,725 region, anywhere down around here between there and the 10 simple at about 11,680-ish region. I'd be looking for a bouncy bounce. We do some momentum also just turning down at the same time. Daily Stokes popping down right now. Daily RSI, again, long-term constructive. Long-term, I do like this. Well, actually, do I like this long-term? I like it actually less than Bitcoin long-term on daily RSI, but it doesn't, it's not all that problematic. But short-term, yes, it is downside angled, absolutely. Looking at the very low-term time frames right here at the 4-hour, what do we see? looks to me like it wants a nosedive down towards 730. That's what it looks like, and that's the same shit on the daily too. That's usually a good sign that we probably do head back down around there. I would be looking for a bounce there though, at least on the first pass, and I want to see it after that. Anywhere below 11.7, and then you got some problems. Or actually, let me double check on this. Yes, anywhere below 11.7 and some problems more long term, probably coming back down overall towards the lower $11,000 region in general, like 11.2 to 11.3 region. But for right now, I think that that's getting way ahead of myself. And I should reflect upon the 3-day as well here, which is not bearish actually. The 3-day just closed, I believe, last night. Let me double check. No, actually, sorry, that is completely wrong. It closes tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Sorry, not 8 p.m. Eastern time, but at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Do I have my numbers right there? Chicago. What was the close at Chicago? It's 3 p.m. It's 3 p.m. That, for some reason, it doesn't sound right. Okay, in San Francisco, it's definitely 1. So yes, that means Chicago 3. Yep. Okay, cool. All right, nice one. Okay, so looking at this right here, if it closes like this today, is that going to give us all that much? Not really. I'd still be looking for an initial bounce off that 11.7 region. You know what? I think I'll refrain from saying anything more than that. What I want to see is today's closure. I'd basically be looking for probably a test down to like 11.750 to 11.730ish region, and very likely a bounce there. And then I want to see the closure after that. For what it's worth on the weekly, what do we have? Yeah, the weekly closure, as we said yesterday, was the big bad one. Any sort of a closure on the weekly above 12,000, and I'm looking for new all-time highs coming into next, in the next few weeks. But we still got a day. We still got a day and 2 days of trading left to go. So a lot can happen between then and now. But for right now, I would be looking at this as likely to trade a little bit lower and then probably bounce. And then I really just want to see the weekly closure on Friday before saying anything else. Below 11.7 problems, above 12,000, good. And not anything too much more scientific than that. Looking at SPY futures as well, what do we see? We see basically the same chart. Short term likely back down to about 34.50ish region to 34.40. I would be looking for a bounce there as well. Probably aligns with the 4-hour 55. Yes, indeed it does. So there you go. And so we do see these markets in concert once again. But again, specific interest on the weekly closure here. Any sort of a weekly closure tomorrow, Friday, at above 3,500, I'm bullish for new all-time highs coming into the next few weeks. Any sort of closure below there doesn't really tell us all that much. Well, it's not that it tells us all that much. It could turn in reversal, obviously. And if it does start to break below that critical level in the similar vein of like NASDAQ below 11.7 it was, that same area would be about a 34.30ish region for SPY. If that does happen, then yes, I would be looking for this one to play out a greater pullback, very likely down another about $100 to 33.50ish region, and potential for a greater continuation. But again, I'd want to see these things first before getting a little bit more gung-ho and excited about about this. We're kind of in a precarious place because this is a big base right here that everything's either going to come significantly down from, or we're going to see some major massive moves to the upside. And that's probably going to come alongside Dixie. I imagine that you're probably going to see some fuckery going on over here. Long term, like very long term, years down the road, I'm incredibly bullish on Dixie. By the way, I keep on getting this fucking question about goddamn Dixie, man. Krown, why are you bullish on Dixie? Don't you know the Fed is burr, 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 burr? You do understand that Dixie is like relative to all other currencies. Sorry, not to talk to you like a fucking asshole, but Dixie is relative to all the currencies, not just the dollar value. So it depends what other currencies do. Just so you know. It's how you can be bullish on it. Anyways, long term, like I said, very, 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 very bullish on this. Whether it bottoms out here or goes all the way down in like 92 and a quarter first, it's all the same to me. Long term, I'll be looking for this one to pop back up over the next half year to a year, probably back up towards like 96 or 97. So fair enough. Short term, though, I don't really have a strong opinion on this right now. I still think that it could come back down here, and that's going to force all the other markets up. Bitcoin above 12,000 most likely, and then we'll have to see it after that, I guess. How long are we into this bitch right now? 23 and a half minutes. All right, nice. It's the TA nerd session right now. Okay, so let's go look at some more fun stuff. All right, so all right, fuck them. Okay, so there's a few interesting things over here that I do want to document, specifically for Bitcoin, because on traditional markets, I actually am a little more downside. What the fuck did I just hit right there? I am a little bit more downside angled, but when I look at my secondary charts right here, they actually do suggest another try to the upside. What I'm namely looking at is the 3-day. Yeah, the 3-day right here, the DMI ADX. Okay, so this is something that I don't really talk about all that much. There's a video on it in the program if you happen to give a fuck. And basically, this one actually does get a lot of moves really well alongside MACD, but MACD is actually less necessary than just the DMI read. So what I'm looking at right here is I'm looking at the light blue, which is DMI plus, the purplish is the DMI minus, and then the ADX is the gray white one that changes colors. Okay, so with that in mind, we can just backtest this anytime that the DMI minus or the DMI plus gets above the threshold. Well, I'll let you make the decision here. All right, so the last time that we saw this was back on 23rd of July. Boom, there's your major massive move out of the $9,600 base all the way up to 12,500. That's all the while ADX is strengthening at the same time. Good. We have this one right here, a very small one, but it was, but it was playable indeed. Just a small splurt above the threshold and a move initiated from about 9,000 all the way to actually 10,500. So pretty damn good there. ADX strengthens along the way, and this one was very weak overall, obviously, but still pretty decent move there. Time before that was this baby right here, getting this base from about 74 to 7,500 all the way up to, well, basically 10,000. And same sort of read. ADX strengthens just for a second there, and it's good enough to get that move. We have the DMI minus right here. By the way, this one was fucking phenomenal. This was precipitating the coronavirus dump. DMI minus gets dominant, actually technically right here, but the ADX is not strengthening. The ADX starts strengthening right here. So you get kind of like a soft sell signal right here, and then like a very strong one right here. And well, there's your move from about 9,200 all the way down to technically 4,000, I guess. And we can go off. We can go after other examples as well, but you pretty much get the idea. Yes, there are fake outs here and there. It's not perfect. I think I was just looking at one right. Where was it? Yeah, it was right here actually. DMI plus gets dominant right here. Let's see exactly what this day was. Yeah, it tells you to basically buy the top of this dildo right here, but that was a major massive fake out. I mean, it does happen. No indicator is perfect in and of itself, but why is this interesting? Why do I even talk about this? Why do you even mention it? Why do I even bother? DMI plus is actually above the threshold right now, and it is dominant, and guess what? It is strengthening at the same time, and we are getting a new 3-day dildo tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So if that does happen, I'd be looking for a move to the top side of the Bollinger Band, and well, it does not imply that we're actually going to push it, but here's the thing, with 3-day MACD also going to confirm a cross the upside here as well, while the histogram starts to take greenish or bluish, depending upon which colors you use in there. I would look at this as overall good. I mean, we are above the median Bollinger Band right here, just a 20 simple. It does kind of have a little bit of a negative slope, but I imagine that if Bitcoin does close anywhere above 11.3, that probably starts to shift around a bit, and then have to start matching everything else up. And I would basically be looking for, yes, a test toward 12,000 actually, or 12.1 would be the next major area. Here's what the 2-day looks like as well. 2-day actually looks a little bit better from the DMI plus perspective. Just got above the threshold right here, strengthening for the last couple dildos. So could you argue that this one's already played out? It did technically tell you to buy right here at about 10.9, so that was already a pretty decent move, about $1,000 move from 10.9 to 11.8. Could it be more? Yes, it could be more. And 2-day MACD looking decent enough as well. Not anything super strong right now, but sitting in a nice base is kind of the picture that I want to be painting. And more importantly, the 20 simple actually has a positive slope all on top of the same side. So here's what I can say today. Again, to the TA nerds, because this is really who we do these videos for, because, well, I mean, it's just more interesting to talk with people who are like, actually fucking trying. That's actually something, man. That's actually something. So yes, looking at this right here, any sort of a 2-day, let's say this actually does play out and we do get a 2-day dildo closure above 11,500. Well, guess what? That's actually going to be above the 2-day dildo topside Bollinger Bands here too. So not only would it not just imply a move towards 11.8 and 12,000, it very likely implies the beginning of an actual long-term trend here. That's essentially where I'm at right now. So I want to see that in place. Obviously, we're living below that right now. But if today closes above 11.5 or especially 11.550, I'm looking for, I'm looking for significant upside over the next couple of weeks if that were to happen. 3 days, same thing as well. Would basically get the top side of the Bollinger Band for the next targeted region. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And I'm curious what the weekly says here too. The weekly is, this is very interesting. DMI. It looks like the DMI plus is just bouncing off the ADX. That's not like a thing, by the way. way, just in case you're wondering. It's not a thing. It just happens to work out that way. It's a little bit of Jesus toast right there. But the DMI plus still being dominant, it's that big of a deal on the weekly. It's not anything like too crazy on the weekly, but the ADX strengthening at the same time does still kind of give the long-term favor to the upside here. So I do like all of that. I'm curious what the lower term time frames say, just for shits and giggles here. Not really getting too much from this. If anything, on the 4 hour, I'd be looking for another test back down to about 11.3. So with that in mind, it's probably time for me to start to wrap up this bitch and send her off. So actually, no, we didn't check out CMEs here. What is CMEs doing today? What are you doing, CMEs? Consolidate above the 21 on the 4 hour. Not bad. I'm sure everyone's calling gap. My gap needs filled. Krown, but my gap needs to be filled. Fucking dumb. I would argue that this gap has already been filled. But again, if it comes back down to 11.1, technically speaking, that would be your very obvious gap fill right there. I would argue that this was kind of already that implied move if you were looking for such things. Let's see what the daily momentum oscillators look like. Okay, daily still getting up there, but technically have not crossed down yet, but a little bit frothy. Daily RSI, very similar to what we see on the spot, so we're not really getting anything unique from this chart right now. And historical volatility percentile on the daily actually is very interesting here. Extremely interesting. Look at this. This is actually not shown on what's called on spot price action, but we do see a very long form contraction phase going all the way back to March, April of this year. Remember, that was coronavirus dump time, and this has been filling out for quite some time, after that. So I would be looking for this next big move. This next move likely does produce a very violent move, because we're probably going to come pop all the way back up here, and that's probably going to be a damn good indication of when this next move is over too, when it goes into this next long form consolidation. You'll notice right here, this was your consolidation in June, July. This was your consolidation in October. And if we were to spike back on up and contract a bit as well, then we're probably going to do the same thing. So with that in mind right now, I would say that this plays into likely the greater whole. Looking at this from like a monthly perspective, realistically, probably talking like 3-4 months out, I'd imagine, but still kind of fits in with the long-term narrative that actually do like this chart still long-term. Short term, do we come back down below 11,000? I really don't have strong opinions on that, actually. I really don't. I'm just going level by level here. So again, even on CMEs, it's very well defined. Any sort of a 4 hour delta closure, basically below the 21, and I'm looking for a move back down to $11,000 base. $11,000 base is critical to hold. If that does fail, then I look for price action to come likely all the way back down, or maybe it takes a few weeks to happen, but all the way back down to $10,000 base, and then play potentially another bottoming behavior right there as well. To the upside, a little bit easier. I do believe that we could just use yesterday's wick high as continuation. Personally speaking, if I'm just looking at Bitcoin's chart here, I actually do think that it moves to the upside. The reason why I'm a little bit more downside angled, or why I had a little bit more of a downside tone today, is 90% due to what we see in traditional markets. Yes, Bitcoin has a few things of its own as well, but personally speaking, I actually think it's going to give another try to the upside, and probably test 11.3. But at the end of the day, that's not a break. Anywhere above 11.550, I'm actually bullish for a move towards, at the very least, 11.8, very likely 12,000, depending upon how the daily closes today, and then extension potentially, higher than that over time. But, one thing before the next. I think this is going to be a good place for me to shut off this video. I'll see you potentially later on the Forex video. Take care, and until next time.